Welcome to episode 7 of the Let's Talk Games podcast. I am Jamie. We've got Chunt there in the middle and Dan over to the left-hand side.
Hello.
Another weekend's arriving, boys. Another week's happened. Some interesting stuff to talk about this week. We've got that new Xbox logo, which I know, Chunt, you're going to have some thoughts about. A little bit of news coming around about Fable 4. Some interesting news, really, the Xbox Lockhart as well. Is it a thing? What might it replace? We want to do some conversations around the nature of cross-platform going into the next generation, some games we think might benefit from that, and then we want to talk about how documentaries could affect the video games industry and maybe some games that we want to see have a documentary made. So, as we usually start, what we've been playing this week, go right over to the left. Dan, you can kick us off.
Yeah, well, I'll probably be the quickest this week, but apart from 2K, which has been blending in with my topic at the end with documentaries, I've played Gears. I am caught up to you, boys. I'm ready. Let's take on the Locust. Let's get this shit done.
Oh, keen.
Let's so this is going to be a quick podcast. We'll wrap it up in 20 minutes and we can go play Gears.
Yeah, I've actually had a really good time with it. I am not taking it in as much as probably I should because the game is really pretty, and especially since the last time I played Gears, which would have been Gears 2, it's nice having the little areas that you can go and listen to conversations and that. But pretty much I have been just sprinting through the levels. Like you get to those in the first section and you go through that town where your uncle is, or where Kate's uncle is, and I just sprinted all the way down. I didn't have time to waste, so I think you guys said it would take about 4 hours. I think it took me about five and a half, but that might have just been because it was just me. So I was.
I will plowing through it because there was two of us, and it was on easy.
Yeah. Well, I was playing on easy.
2 people.
I was playing on easy. I died twice. Once because of stupidity, and once because the monster that you warned me about was a big jump from the rest of the game in terms of difficulty.
Yes.
So that surprised me the first time. I went, oh, right, okay, gotcha. And then
I was telling Jamie about that one before we got there. I was like, man, I was playing the game on normal just by myself, and I was rage quitting on that thing because I knew the pattern, I knew how to do it, but you could just die so easily on that difficulty. And but yeah, we just annihilated it. I was couldn't believe it. I was like, what, we finished already? What the hell? And I felt a bit beside myself because
no time wasted where that's concerned at all. So is that
I feel our first spoiler cast is coming on with this game because we'll all play it at the same time.
Yeah, we should all finish it at the same time, so that's probably a decent idea. We can do that. I know Chunt will love a conversation about Gears.
Yes,
can sit there in his big dressing gown, cigar, scotch, just be like, right, let's go, let's talk about some Gears. So that's all for me. What have you played this week, Chunt?
Oh well, my day
Animal
got interesting
Crossing?
at the end of the week, didn't it? Yeah, like off the bat, Animal Crossing, and that's it basically. I can't remember how many hours now. It's probably about 60 hours or something in this game now. It's ridiculous. But something else has happened today, which is going to tear me away for a few days. I've introduced the enemy into my home. She's a sexy little, pretty slim white glacier device with parallel sticks, and that was interesting. Got one of these things.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, and it's a sexy little device, and I actually do like the slim design of that console. It looks very pretty, particularly right in proximity of the Xbox One X as well. So that was cool. So I spent most of the evening just setting it up and downloading stuff, and I actually managed to get through. The first game I played on it was the Final Fantasy VII demo because I was like, oh, it's right there. I'll get a taste of it. And man, it's a very stunning game. Like even just on this base console, it looks amazing. Like I've already seen the whole game. I watched the guy play it. I've mentioned it before, but playing it locally, man, it looks even better because obviously you're not watching through someone's stream, that kind of stuff. You get extra clarity through your own shit. And I can't wait to play it in full. Like I got to get used to the controls. It's intuitive, but you have to get used to it. It was a bit jarring. The way I watched the guy play it, I thought it was more actiony, like active response, like God of War, like old school type fighting mechanics or whatever. But this is like it's like Final Fantasy 15, where like you just hold down your attack button, and they do the thing, and you cast spells, and you can slow down time, all that kind of shit. So once I started thinking about it in that regard, I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to play this, and I got it well. But I'm going to practice on that a while until I buy the first game. But Spider-Man is over halfway done downloading, and God of War is about a third. So I'm getting there. It's all going. So my plan was this weekend. I thought it wasn't going to arrive, and I was going to play Final Fantasy 15 and just smash that this weekend. But it's just all up in arms now. So yeah, it's a real good day.
Congratulations, Chad.
Nothing to complain about. So I've got this in my house, this thing, and now I've got this thing, this other one. It's a white thing as well, and you got the House of Mario here as well. I just wish that was white, but it kind of fits with the color, grey and white. It's kind of all matching. That kind of anal retentive.
Well, Nintendo's always been a little bit different.
That is very true. Yeah. So I thought at the beginning of this generation, I'm like, no, I'm not going to have multiple consoles this generation. Now fucking look at me, I'm swimming in them.
Just right at the end of the generation as well.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Happy days.
Let's see what I've missed out on.
Yeah.
So
how about you, Jamie? I'm done.
I've played a bit of Gears already. I was just mucking about in versus mode, and then I got into a pattern where I was bored of it, but I wanted to hit level 50 and progress to whatever the next rank was that unlocked an achievement. And I just sat there mindlessly grinding through it like, this is awful. Versus, nah, I'm not about it. I want to do some horde mode. I want to finish the campaign. Then I can fucking uninstall it. Because it's taking up hundreds and hundreds of gigabytes on my PC. I also did the thing and have one of these guys floating around the house.
Yeah.
I'd been playing a lot of PlayStation Now, which we'd obviously spoke about, and that's how I kind of got into Spidey, and I'm so happy that I'm now getting to play it in all of its glory, because it's infinitely better, and he's my inspiration for this week.
Oh wow, nice one, nice.
So yeah, Mr. Spider-Man can sit with me for the rest of the show. I can't move him. Apparently, he's got stuck on the thing. He didn't want to move. He thinks he's Tom Nook, so
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. For clarification for anyone that's watching, you got the Pro version.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. He's in my face properly now.
Nice.
I just have to sit like this to make the job work.
Yeah, go on.
But no, he's it's the Pro version, and yeah, unbelievable. Like really, really, really good looking game. I think I've only done one more main story mission because again, like I only got it all set up yesterday properly. I played some WWE 2K20. Like, it's the jankiest wrestling game that's ever existed.
I was gonna say, does it work?
Well, better than it did. I mean, I didn't play it way back when it came out because everybody was saying, look, if you've got 2K19, don't upgrade because it's not an upgrade. But it was on sale in the spring sale on PlayStation. So I was like, I think it was £13 or something. I was like, yeah, I'll just for the sake of just battering people. And the first thing I did was put Donald Trump through a cell. So that was fun. His face was just piss pouring with blood, and I just put him through a top of a cell. And I thought, yeah, that
justified.
That let out some stress. It was justified. I played a bunch of games on PlayStation Now on the PS4. It streams really well. Like some of these like smaller games, I can't remember what it was that I sent to you guys, but like some kind of Dynamite Fishing Frenzy or something stupid like that. I found myself playing that for like 2 hours and was like, what the fuck is this game? You're just dropping dynamite on fishes and collecting their corpses. It's really dark when you think about it, but it's got a really cartoon aesthetic, and it's
I think
all
I remember a trailer for that like years ago.
yeah, it was strange, but it was quite fun. I booted Destiny up to see how that'd go on PlayStation. I'm absolutely still just playing it on PC. I can't do it. Like it's too slow. It was giving me a headache, and yeah, a bit more Animal Crossing. Now, Animal Crossing, I kind of rage quit it because, Chunt, I came to your island the other day, right? And in doing that, I leave the time zone that I'm in. Yeah. So in leaving the time zone that I was in, I had on me, and I forgot, I had like 300 turnips to sell on the turnip stock market. And they spoiled when I came to your island, so I lost like 100,000 bells basically.
Oh, no.
And I was like, fuck this, and just rage quit, turned it off. I was like, nah,
Oh,
I'm
no.
done. Fuck that nonsense. So I've not really been back to it since then. I mean, that was early this week, but
I haven't even gotten into the turnip game yet. Like I bought like one just to see what the go was, and then
it's like a stock market. You buy 50 turnips, and then if you buy them all for say for 10 bells, and then you can sell them for 300 bells, you make a bunch of money. So yeah, I had a load on me and they all got spoiled, and I was really mad about it. I played a little bit more Pokemon as well on the Switch, and yeah, just again spoiled for games, but like I said last week, super spoiled for games. Played some
speaking of rage quitting and getting a headache, so when I was playing Gears and set it up, I could not get the controller working on the PC. So I'm like, this is frustrating. I'm like, screw it. I'll just play with the mouse and keyboard. And I got the biggest headache. I was not used to it. I was just going back and forth, and I couldn't. I mean, I think I was playing in the dark for the first half, and then turned on the light for the second half because I thought that might help. But I was just not doing it.
You're not used to that mouse and keyboard life.
I listened to a podcast this week, and someone mentioned that with their rule is for first-person shooters on the PC, go mouse and keyboard, and on third person go with controllers. And I'm like, I kind of get why that would work better. But yeah, and then so I got rage quit, but I fixed it.
It's turn motion blur off as well. Your PC, you don't need it with how good your PC is. Turn it off, because motion blur will fuck with your eyes as well, big time. I hate it. And in Gears, it's really bad. It's not implemented well at all. Well, I'll talk you through that anyway when we finish the podcast and we're actually playing Gears. So, yeah, moving on. So, Chunt, better news this week about an Xbox logo. Thoughts?
Yeah, it went wild. I didn't expect it. I was like, okay, cool. Just a new logo. I understand what they're trying to do with it. A lot of people are like, oh, they're minimizing the series thing because they're sick of people saying stuff about it. So, well, maybe, but it makes sense. Interviews and during the reveal with like Austin Evans and stuff like that, they sat down and like, yeah, the new Xbox is just Xbox. Like, we're calling it Xbox, and with these extra bits like on top for the newer models or whatever. So makes sense. Like, I'll have the same Xbox logo, and to differentiate this new one, I'll have a new Series X type logo and an S maybe down the road. I don't mind it. I think it looks pretty classy. It does remind me a little bit of the Xperia logo, like Sony Xperia logo, the X and all that, and how it's cut away. But yeah, I mean, I'm impartial to it. I'm like, whatever. I just hope it's not massive on the console. You know, cool on the box. I don't really need it on the console. I like the clean aesthetic, how they're going. I'm just like, whatever. But it makes it like, oh, we're one step closer to something. Like, is there a reason why they revealed this, or is there a reason why this got leaked, or whatever? You know, there's all these rumors of an event or two I'm looking forward to. And Phil Spencer's been pretty vocal on Twitter this week, responding just randoms, saying, yeah, you know, we're listening to people, we're planning for stuff, you know, expect games, you know, basically coming. So they've had this trickle feed of just stuff coming out for the last couple months, and it's awesome, man. And just to know that this is really it, and I think it makes sense to minimize the series part of it next to the X, just so that just might avoid confusion from stupid people that can't think properly. Like what always bugged me about this whole thing, this whole Xbox Series X naming convention, is just instantly people are like, oh, it's such an effort to say, oh, it's so stupid, but it's not really. Like you got Xbox One X, Xbox One S. You know, it's not difficult to say. Series X, whatever. But I understand why they want to go away from it and they just call it Xbox. And I always wanted just that. I just wanted them to call it Xbox, and that's it going forward. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just excited just to hear more news about it. So that's basically it. But it just leaves me to go, all right, it's getting more real, like we're going to talk about in a bit, about potential like smaller S model or whatever they're going to call it. And the way they described it, where it's like gonna, I don't know if we should just delve right into it now because we're kind of leading into it regardless. Of the Lockhart, Code Lockhart console. And there's like mock-up renders going around where it's like half as tall as the X. And I'm not sure if those renders have the disk drive, but I'm pretty sure it'll have a disk drive because it's meant to essentially replace Xbox One X, which makes sense. So they can just get rid of that stock. And like you said at the top, the new CyberPunk console will be the last kind of special edition version of the Xbox One X, and just to clear out remaining stock, I think, or hardware and stuff on the shelves or in the manufacturing lots and whatever. Just makes sense just to get one out. It's about one last go, and then start promoting the next one pretty hardcore. And it's funny because the Cyberpunk was supposed to be coming out around this time, right? With the new console date that was coming out. So it's just interesting where you're going to be able to buy this console for this game's that's not even out yet for like another 6 months or so, So yeah, it just sounds like they're trying to clean house so they can start getting ready for the new hotness.
Dan, you're muted. You're muted. Dan, you are muted.
Dan, muted.
Technical hiccup number 1 for the week.
Oh, is it?
You'll have to talk to us in sign language, mate.
Naruto, like.
Right, while Dan's figuring that out, I'll give my thoughts on it. So yeah, logo, like it. I think the convention of how it's done is to enable the other letters to work with it. That kind of typography will work with different styles, an S or whatever it winds up being. And then you can see if there's another series something console coming out, because that's the whole point, isn't it? Like they have rebranded. It is just Xbox. That was confirmed was it Aaron Greenberg confirmed that? Is that, look, no, the next
all of them.
Yeah, the next one of the guys, series of the next generation of Xbox is just Xbox. So yeah, let's have this one is Series X. The Series logo it works well. It is very of the times. It's very 2020. It's very minimalist with the nice little cut through. Like it a lot. Like you said, it does kind of lean into the whole the conversation around Lockhart that we wanted to have. Like, now that we know that the Series X will be effectively ceasing production after this special edition, it's now, people are now starting to chalk up the fact, right, well, what if, say, some of the components that create an Xbox One X will now create the Series whatever Lockhart winds up being, because for the longest time it's been rumored that the GPU that is in the Xbox One X will be the GPU that's carried forward into the Lockhart. It'll just be the other components that are kind of upgraded and up-clocked to kind of give you a performance increase for what's rumoring now is the same price. I'd take that. I think that'd be a fairly well-established machine if you can release that for $300 with Xbox One X graphical power and the CPU horsepower and speed of the drive of the Series X. I think you've got a nice little spot in the market there. So we'll see what they do. I mean, the console itself, just for anecdote, the Cyber is awful. The CyberPunk console is ugly AF.
Yeah, it's not the prettiest thing, is it?
Nah, neither's the controller. It's quite disappointing because the aesthetic of the game is really cool, but it's almost like, it reminds me of like you know, in Zoolander, Derelict. It's a derelict console. It does look a bit trash, but we'll see kind of what pans out there. I think it is probably quite on the money though that happens, and the logo's
makes total
really
sense.
really nice. So Dan, have you sorted your microphone out? Can you give us your thoughts now?
Yes.
No, you haven't sorted your microphone out. You've gone quiet again.
I did hear him say stuff before.
Yeah. He's just playing with us, just messing around with us. We can't hear him at all.
Well, I don't know. The coolest aspect of that
There he is.
CyberPunk
Sorry, but
console
it keeps dropping out. Not sure. Maybe if I just keep talking, it just won't let me go.
Go.
Let the Sony boy tell you guys how this is going to go. So starting with the logo, it's a logo for Series X, and it says Series X. Good job. The most frustrating part where people they're like, oh, I don't know if it really represents it. It was when Captain America Civil War is coming out, and they're like, oh, I don't know if I like the Spider-Man outfit. I'm like, okay, when you look at it, does it look like Spider-Man? They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, then they've done their job. Like, it's just as long as you know what the thing is, then they've done their job. I want to know how much they paid designers for a logo like that, because it is simplistic.
There he is.
But it's fine. It's a logo. The same thing happened when Sony had their talk at CES, and it was they revealed the PS5 logo, but it wasn't meant to be a story. It was just them being like, it's coming. And this wasn't like released per se. It was just a trademark. So it was not something Microsoft were touting. It was just a thing that they need to trademark, so they're ready. It's probably going to be the logo that's going to be on the bottom of the console with all the like model and serial number stuff, and it's going to be maybe on the box, depending how many boxes are sold in this generation. But it's fine. But yeah, it's more just getting us excited because everything is starting to come, and everything is just starting to build. We're at that point where it just starts. When we hit May, when we hit June, it's just everything's going to start coming out, and it's going to be so exciting.
Well, we've had Xbox stuff kit that's just coming. We've had a controller announcement with pictures from Sony, and that's about it. So, I just think it was just interesting. I didn't expect the amount of traffic that logo got today. And just because it was a Series X, the PS5 one kind of maybe justified, but even then it was like, okay, like there was nothing behind it, like there's nothing backing it. It was like, here's a logo, then we got a 5 on it, that whole conversation that was happening. But I don't know, I just found it humorous that this logo got as much traffic as it is, and we still don't have anything like from Sony really pushing anything. Like after that controller, it's just kind of fizzled out, and we're getting so close to everything, as everybody keeps saying. Like, why are they just not saying anything? Like, are they scared or something? Like, we were talking about in the chat, Jamie was mentioning the other day about, are they just packing their boots, or are they just totally blown out of the water, or what? Are they just trying to recoup, or trying to fix their messaging, or trying to save face somehow? I don't know. But to be this close, even if they were going to delay, you'd think they'd still be talking about their console. Like, Xbox has just been constantly going on since what? How long has it been? Like 4 months now, or something, or 5 months?
Since November, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just been like a trickle, and it's just ramping up now. And we've had a logo and a couple of images of a controller from Sony. It just seems weird to me.
Yeah, I've stopped looking at the supposed leaks for both the consoles at this point, because it's just a new one every week, and I can't keep track of them. And I'm just going to wait until I hear the official thing, because everyone's just getting too overblown, and I'm like, just wait, we're not far off. But in terms of the conversation, between what this the Lockhart. So I've been saying for a while now, and I still hope I'm going to be right, but my idea was always that the Lockhart would be the Series S, as most people have been saying. I think it'll get released a year after the Series X. It might even be announced, sort of like how they did the Xbox One X when they were like, in a
Yeah.
month we're going to release the S, and then a year later you're going to
Preview.
get the X.
Yeah.
So I think they'll do something similar like that and say next year, Series S coming out, it'll be an all digital console. It'll be slightly more powerful than the Xbox One X. And when that is coming out, they will say now, like they will stop production on any Xbox One S's, just like they've already stopped on the original Xbox One. And that is going to be the kind of the timeline of them slowly phasing them out. So then the Xbox One X will be your lowest entry point, and they'll price cut it down.
I still
And
think
so-
the S will have a disk drive. If anything, there'll be like a couple of years later, there'll be an all digital one. I don't think if they want to sell at a more accessible level without cutting out a lot of people that have discs from last gen or whatever, or this current gen, whatever, I think
No,
it'd be bad if they
but
left
the
out the
Xbox
disc
One
drive.
X will be your entry level. You'll have the
That'll be
S,
gone.
which is
That'll be gone.
you'll have S, which is a little bit more, and then you'll have the Series X, which is still your top. And then
Yeah,
they'll
the
have a
X-
year
X will be the
break.
top.
Then they'll have a year break, and then they'll kind of iterate on the Series X and the Series S again, and it will just
God.
be this rolling thing because it's going to be it'll be like a mobile phone.
I fucking
rollout.
hope not. I hope not, man. I just want the X. I want that to be it for 5 years or whatever. You know, that's my thing. And if they want to have an entry level console, that could be the S. But I don't think they'll get rid of the disk drive out of the cheaper model because you're cutting out like the whole target market for a cheaper model is those that can't afford or justify the more expensive one. So if you're going to remove the disk drive out of it, you got all these people that can't afford the bigger one, but they've still got all these games and discs and stuff. Like we're not out of the disc realm yet. Like I think maybe after this life cycle, this next one, maybe. Who knows? Like I'm already all in. Like I haven't bought a physical disc for a while now. So it's not going to bother me. But I know a lot of people that haven't jumped on that yet. So I don't think it would be beneficial to Xbox if they released a cheaper model without a disc drive. See how everybody reacted to the SAD model? You know, the all digital Xbox One. They're like, what the hell? You know, it sold pretty well, but it was a joke to a lot of people. And I don't think I'd want to do that again. So who knows? Like, I mean, your take is different than mine, and that's fine. I just don't see that happening. That's all.
I don't see them
The
entering
difference-
next generation with a 3 console SKU. I can see maybe the X coming this year and the S coming next year for sure, because it gives them a console launch next year. And it also gives them time to start preparing games that are going to be just for the Series Edition consoles that maybe won't support the previous Xbox generation. I do, like you, Chunt, think it'll have a disc drive. I think if we get a Series version, it'll be a Series D or something like that. Yeah, Siri thought I said Series, not Siri. So I think that'll maybe come a few years down the line as well. You know, that word D. I'm scared to say Series now because she thinks I'm talking to her. But like Series D, Big Dick Digital, like that could be a whole marketing campaign. But yeah, in terms of entering next gen with an X, an S, and a Series X, I don't think that makes sense. I do think there's maybe some merit to the fact that the Lockhart will replace the X. If you then keep the SAD edition around for a bit and just go, yeah, look, if you really want the lowest barrier to entry here and you make it $100, what is it now? 200? You make it one or 150, like that's a pretty low barrier
Dan's
to entry.
thinking about. I think what Dan's saying is like the end of the 360 life cycle leading into the start of the Xbox One. They did release like a Xbox One looking 360, the Xbox 360e, whatever it was.
Yeah, the revision.
As like that was your alternative for a real cheap one. Like, you know, I see that logic, but even that one, people at the time were like, I don't want that. You know, there's already there's a better 360 model that's even cheaper anyway, all the same price at the time. So yeah, I don't see it. But who knows?
The thing you also have to consider though is the developers, right? Like, how long should developers be made to make a game run on the original Xbox One?
Not very long.
And then,
it won't be that long.
and then the S came out like 2 years, 3 years later from the original. Does that sound right?
I think the reason that they've given that
eventually
skew
you're gonna
though
have to
is
start phasing
to
them
make it
out.
2 years. I think they want to make it 2 years. I think that's why we've been told, look, for the first 2 years, we will support current Xbox hardware. There's a reason that they've said specifically 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the
which
hardware
is
that we've got now in our current consoles is already kind of near obsolete at the time as far as the CPU goes. So like if they want to move into this next Series X generation and still using like near ancient CPUs going forward, they're gonna have to just pull a line and be like, nah, come on. Like let's grow up now.
So that 2 years.
Oh, your mic's gone.
Don't know what he's done to his microphone.
Keeps
just breaking down. It shouldn't be. That only.
I'm not sure what's been happening. Sorry. So that 2 years kind of fits in perfectly with that cycle though, because if you release an S next year and have a year break, by then they can say like the Xbox One X is the lowest point, because the Xbox One X will still be able to at least handle what developers can do, and they can upgrade it from there. Whereas if they're still trying to go for the S and the original, it's just too much for developers.
Yeah, but only graphically. The CPU's horsepower and the ability to generate game engines to be optimized for it is still going to take a hit if you're still developing for that X, because you've got to remember like the memory speeds, the CPU clocks, they're all, as Chunt said, archaic by this point. Do you know what I mean? You can buy a $90 CPU for your computer that's faster. So I think they've got to be mindful of that as well. Like graphically, yes, I'm sure it would keep up because it's currently far and away the best performing graphics card chip inside of a console. But yeah, I think just to throw that tangent in there before you finish your point.
Yeah, no, I just see with the way Microsoft's been going, I just see the phone model, and I see X and S a year after each other, and then they take a year break, and then they do it again. And I said that's how they're going to do it, because they can't do a console every year because it's not a phone. It's too much for people as a luxury product rather than a phone, which is used by everyone everyday life. To do it every year is too much, but if they have that break and then they're, from Series X to whatever that next iteration is, you give them 2 years, beyond that 2 or 3 years, then
you got to factor in like where we are now, like what's happening now. Like the same logic of old doesn't apply anymore. Like manufacturing and the world economy and stuff are going to affect their plans going on for years now, like going in the future. So like what they've got now is what they're going to have to commit to, but anything after that, depending on how the world like bounces back, that's going to dictate whether they're going to start smashing out newer revisions or whatnot, whether it's financially viable. Like I doubt it. Like that's a big reason why I don't see it happening, just depending on how we bounce back. But who knows? I hope we bounce back and we like flourishing with products and everybody's happy, but I don't see it. Like considering we're all supposed to be locked down for 6 months or more. Jamie was saying UK is saying we're probably going to be isolated for 12 months or whatever. So
social distancing will be in place for a minimum of 12 months.
Yeah. And like China, there's a part in China now that's having another kind of issue, another kind of outbreak in a little part of China that's not Wuhan. So it's could have another, if they don't tackle that one quick. So who knows, man?
Yeah. what's that? We can move on from this one. I think we'll be talking about it in probably 2 weeks or something.
It's interesting though, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I like talking about it.
And just and while kind of we are there, just before we do move off, there is a lot kind of pointing now and again with Phil Spencer starting to respond to people here and there quite frequently that there's rumors of an Xbox event imminent, as in the next few weeks, to get out ahead of all of the E3 week or whatever that's going to be. I know IGN have picked up a lot of the E3 reveals to kind of run their own remote show, which will be pretty cool. But I think Microsoft want to get out and put out their bit before we start seeing the games, which means, you know, you are looking at the next 2 or 3 weeks for that. So yeah, you're probably right. We probably will touch on that again in a few weeks. So sticking on the Xbox bandwagon for the week, there was some leaked what people are claiming to be from Fable 4, and I think it's just a case of it's the engine that's rumored to be getting used for Fable, and it was from somebody working at Playground. I did write the person's name down to cite, but I can't remember what it was now. If you Google Fable 4 art leak, you'll find it. Fable, way back when, I think it was the last Gameplug podcast we did where we talked about the closure of Lionhead?
Oh, probably, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I remember doing that. It was only us three that did that podcast. I remember doing it, and you know, that was a sad day for me as somebody who Fable was like my thing. Like, do you know what I mean? It's the British quirky humor of it, the RPG nature. You know, build your own kind of like Fable 2 is still one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had in a video game. 3 was a bit of a letdown, but 2 was like out of this world, so much so that, you know, you finished 2 and it was like, I want 3 now, like give me more of this, and then it just didn't kind of live up to the expectation. So yeah, I'd be happy to see a rebirth of Fable. Any thoughts from you guys on what you think it'd be? A continuation of the series, maybe a fresh reboot entirely? Seen a lot of stuff about it being more in depth.
Yeah, start fresh. I've heard things thrown around of like taking a Witcher aspect to it, making it a bit more realistic, but still in the fantasy realm. You know, leaning into that. Like, have all your Fable quirks and stuff, but make it more mature. Like the game will grow up. Like that just hyped me up. I'm like, God, I would love that. You know, I liked Fable. I liked 1 and 2. I couldn't get attached to 3, like you just said. Even when they re-released them again or gave them out for free with gold, I downloaded them again and tried to jump right into 3. I was like, oh, this is the most recent one. Like, I can't do it. And so if they can make that game, like, I'm using this term a lot lately, but if they can make this game just grow up, you know, and be a new thing, and just hit us over the head with just some epic fantasy, man. Like, outside of The Witcher, we don't really have a lot of that from like a big budget thing, and I'd like to see that come back. I think Fable would be the right thing to do it.
Yeah, if they can keep that kind of aesthetic that they had, but bring it into the modern generation, and maybe not be as cartoony, but still it's got to keep that comedic undertone. And I think if you do lean into the much more heavier RPG elements and have a bit more control, I think I was watching the way that they want you to be able to build villages and things, and actually like lean full into the Animal Crossing-esque of it if you really want to. Because the whole thing with Fable, you know, you could have relationships, you could hunt people, and then, you know, 2 days later in the game, for some reason, you had a baby. Like, time didn't work properly in Fable Land. Apply all of those kind of things to a more modern setting, and I think you're onto a real winner. And that, for me, I know I'm kind of biased because I enjoy the game, but I think that would genuinely be a system seller if it had this epic kind of RPG first party. Come and lose yourself in hundreds of hours of this. We're going to support it for the next 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it might be. Where, you know, maybe once a year you get an expansion. Once every 18 months you get a big expansion. I think it'd be have it as a platform rather than a series that's going to get iterated on. I like that with RPGs. You know, it's a case of like, look, here's your core game. We're going to expand on this, as opposed to here's Fable reboot, here's Fable 2, 3, and have cyclical games like that. Let your character grow and evolve through the universe. I think that'd be a smart take.
Yeah.
Well, as someone has never played Fable, but heard great things, what you're saying, Jamie, and I know it's kind of dirty game to throw around at this point because it's just so much negativity. But you got to think about when it came out. It sounds like you more want like what Fallout 4 kind of did when it came out. Not in terms of the look or anything, but in terms of the amount that they added into that, in terms of being able to build up the different townships and that you could go to. It sounds like that's what they kind of want to do with Fable from the stuff that you sent through the other day.
But the issue with Fallout was it didn't really integrate very well. So I finished Fallout 4 in a week. It was one of the games, I said before, where sometimes I get lost in it. It's like 80 hours in a week, and I finish it. I did that with Fallout 4. I had a week off work when it came out, and I just blitzed through it. But that was the part I didn't pay attention to, because irrespective of the settlements you build, and you get random people appearing, but they were just NPCs. They didn't give you quests. They didn't evolve with the story, which is I get what you're saying. If they can apply that and grow it into what is a classic Fable kind of environment, you really are starting to look at quite an impressive video game, and I think it'd resonate with a lot of people.
Are you kind of mentioning sounds like Monster Hunter, like Fable, like if you wanted RPG aspects and like townships, and like it only just occurred to me, it's like, well, what if Fable 4 or whatever the reboot will be is like Monster Hunter? Like that
Monster
last
Hunter
one.
it's more of a looter type game.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, I could see that. Like, it's not particularly what I'd want, but I could see that, and that was a huge.
Like, was it Assassin's Creed 2 or Brotherhood, where you had your home and you would go and upgrade your stuff in your home and build shops and all that? Was that 2 or Brotherhood?
It was Brotherhood.
I think
definitely.
Brotherhood.
Yeah. Like, imagine that, but with multiple towns, and you're just upgrading these towns and whatnot. To be honest, the thing that excites me the most is the fact that they're letting Playground, well, assuming that it is Playground, letting them kind of make a totally different game. We're in an industry. Well, we're not in the industry, but it's an industry that constantly wants to play things safe, and especially when they're spending a lot of money to not do something new or something cool. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I talk about Horizon so much, Zero Dawn, is because they let Guerrilla go from making the first-person shooter PlayStation 3 brown, greys, colors, and just let them make something totally different. And if you can have Playground split into 2 teams, one team works on Horizon and the other team is making Fable, and then after that one game's finished, you move people in to try something else and then move people back over, like swap in between teams. Like, I think that's just great for a studio.
Massively. What a palate cleanser. You're sitting like 2 years on a racing sim, and then you're like, oh fuck, oh cool, now I get to move into Fable.
Did we when these things first started coming around a few years ago, just speaking of the studio, after Lionhead's closure, this was a while back, was the first clues that people started getting was that people from Lionhead were being hired by Playground, right?
Yeah,
I remember seeing something about that like years ago. So you have to think that at least if this is a Fable project, most likely a reboot, at least it's going to have some of that original DNA, because I really don't want it to lose that. As much as we're talking about these exciting ideas, I really do not want it to lose it. And if I want it to evolve, and like you said, Chunk, grow up, mature, evolve into what they're doing. And as a studio, it'll allow them to evolve as well. And then if it's maybe supported for years to come, like you said, if you move between a few different games at that studio, you get options to work on different types of projects, flex your creative muscles. It's a win-win for everybody. But even the township things and the kind of that we touched on just previously, Fable 3 let you kind of become king of the land and rule in your own stead, and how you wanted to handle citizens' issues and things like that. If you start to really evolve on some of the ideas that Fable laid out in a next-gen setting, give me it now. Like, seriously.
Yeah. Totally don't have someone there making false promises, every game.
And can you imagine if you bring in like new heads of departments to create this new game, but you bring in people that have been working and made Fable before, so you get new ideas plus people that know how the world work, and you combine those together. I think it's if that's what they're doing, which we don't know, but if that's what they're doing, that's the right way to go.
Yeah. The whole last 12 minutes of conversation is a lot of this has not been confirmed. We do not know. It's just widely industry speculated that Playground are indeed working on a fantasy RPG that is rumored to be Fable. Right, well, moving away then, let's have a bit of a conversation about cross-platform stuff. So involve a bit of everybody. It's become a thing towards the end of this generation. You know, Fortnite basically demanded it of certain games in the industry. It took PlayStation a long time to come to the party, but they did, and now Fortnite, Call of Duty, etc., can be played cross-platform. Brings the industry together, lets people play with their friends wherever they might be. And I think that's only going to get bigger and better next generation, because there's been a precedent set now, and I think that games will be developed to support that going forward. I know for one, first off the bat, I want Destiny to have crossplay. I miss playing Destiny with Chunt.
Yep.
I want it to have crossplay.
Same.
I also can't, as I said at the start, I can't stick watching 30 frames a second Destiny anymore. My brain's just, it's past it. But I thought it'd maybe be an idea for each of you to think of a game that you think might benefit from it, or that you'd like to see it maybe happen with going forward. And Dan, you can kick us off.
Great, you go with me. Okay, so
well, I don't know if your microphone's going to drop out in 3 seconds or not. So.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on it. Don't worry. I think I've been thinking about it, because I really do think with crossplay you're going to start getting more, rather than the big AAA shooters, which we sort of touched upon last week when I talked about wanting Resistance to come back, and I really feel like we'll get those kind of AA shooters come back a bit, and I feel like those will really, really benefit from having crossplay, because it doesn't matter where they're going to put the game. Like, because normally what would happen is that they would push it towards just putting it on a PlayStation console, and then but PlayStation is also a console mostly known for shooters. They've brought people over because they've had Call of Duty in that, but you watch any presentation on an Xbox stage, and that's where the real audience for that is. So I'm it's probably more me not predicting a game that's out right now, but with these consoles coming out, like when you see a game like and I know it's not a shooter, but a game like Godfall, which is currently a PlayStation 5 game, which I don't think it will be a PlayStation 5 game for very long. It'll come to Xbox a year later or whatever. Games like that are being made by your Gearboxes, and not necessarily, and maybe 2K, because they've created a few other studios under their umbrella. Like if they start making games like that, it's going to proliferate. So I don't have one specific game, but if you look at a game that's going to be like a Godfall type, but as a shooter,
a Destiny,
I think you're going to start seeing that a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Destiny is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I kind of don't put Bungie in that stratosphere at the moment, just because they're not. I don't know. It's hard. I'm arguing with myself in my head at this point, because one, they have Activision money from stored back in the cabinet somewhere, but they don't have that income all the time now. So they're in a really, really well put position. And if you think of 2K, 2K will create a studio like that, but they're not going to give them Red Dead Redemption money. They're not going to give them NBA 2K money. They're going to get, Hangar 13 Mafia money. And what can that studio do with that? Yeah, so that's probably my answer. But this is for you guys to hash
Destiny
out,
3 will 100% have crossplay. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
If Destiny 2 doesn't get it this year,
yeah,
they've been talking to Epic for a while about how they implemented it with Fortnite, and it's coming. Like, they're building it so you can play with your friends no matter where you're playing. That's the vision of the studio. But yeah, you're right. It's not a cheap thing to do. John?
Well, we know it can be done because we've had like, was it Rocket League or something where they just
Mhm.
it was some game where they accidentally like switched it on, so to speak.
yeah,
And they're like, this works, you know, like it's if you inbuild it to the game, it will happen, you know, and it's just deals and shit that stop it from happening. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that it's of ease if it's planned. So potentially any game that's a multi-platform, I'd like to see that just in general because it's just dumb. Like we're already kind of experiencing it with Gears. Like you guys are going to be playing on PC and I'm going to be on my Xbox, and that's cross-play, you know, right there, and cross-save. I think it does as well. Like Destiny at least does cross-save.
Mhm.
So I had the option of moving my save from my Xbox to my PC, and you know that worked a treat. Took all my content with me, you know. So the groundwork is there. It just needs to be at the start of the planning phase because we know it can be done. But as far as a game that I'd like to see done, I mean, you know, I waved the Xbox flag, surprise. You know, I would just be like, well, I'm already getting it. Like I'm already getting the options for whatever Xbox games are on Game Pass for PC. More often than not are going to be playable between people on PCs and Xbox. So I'm already kind of there, and I'm not really invested in many other like third party massive games like that. Like Destiny 2 is probably it as far as anything outside of that ecosystem. And even then I'm like, I'm only there because Jamie's there and I miss it. And we'll play again someday. But other games like I'm not really torn apart if I don't see it happening for games that I play, but I'd like to see it for everybody else.
Cool. Well,
yeah, but
let's-
how much are we going? Like, we're not going to see Halo being played on PlayStation, right? Like
That'll never be on PlayStations. That'll never happen.
like
but
we're talking about just third parties in this scenario. Like
pretty much,
it's
yeah.
more about what. Yeah, it's more about what's the extent of how much it's going to proliferate.
Well, like you said with Godfall, like Monster Hunter. I'd love for Monster Hunter to get it, like just something like that, where it's like, oh, doesn't really matter where you play in, just everybody kind of comes together. You take on a team objective, blah blah yada. What did you just mention just before then? Because it triggered my brain to think something, and now it's gone. What was the last thing you said?
Who,
Dan?
me?
No, Dan.
Me or
Okay.
Chad?
Dan. What was the last thing you said, Dan?
I was asked about Halo, and then
Yeah, Halo. That was the one. Saw some kind of rumors that they were planning on making the multiplayer portion of Halo free to play.
Whoa. Okay.
Again, not to
Interesting.
comment on rumor and speculation, which 80% of this podcast has been. But
That'd be huge.
any initial thoughts on that? How that could benefit Microsoft going forward?
Yeah, I mean, Halo needs to kind of pick up its boots. It's no longer like that king that it once was, and I think if they want to proclaim that crown once more, they really need to kind of pull something out of their bum, and that would be pretty epic if they made that aspect free to play. Obviously, it might be just hindered by your inclusive with microtransactions or paid expansions or something, but because you'd have to offset it, right? I mean, why would you give away free mode unless you're not going to make money off it? I'd be okay with that. I mean, I'd like to see Halo back up top because it's just nostalgic as hell for me. Like, I lived through all that. I was like, yeah, man, Halo was the bee's knees, you know. So that'd be great. I've never been into all the other bigger games like Call of Duty and all that crap, and like Fortnite and any hero shooter was never my bag. All that shit should be cross play. Like all that stuff should. But if it was free to play for PC, it'll never come to PlayStation. It's just I'd never see that happening because it's an Xbox property. But it'd be Xbox and PC crossplay, hands down. you've got the Master Chief Collection kind of already doing that, or I'm pretty sure Master Chief Collection is crossplay, like on multiplayer or campaign. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Campaign is good. I
so-
think multiplayer is.
yeah. So the groundwork's are there already, so that really wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, why not? I mean, if they want to come out swinging with "fuck Halo's back," come one all, let's do it. I'd be totally down for that. As long as it didn't affect my single player campaign, that's my Halo. That's mine.
I think
Leave
I think that would raise. There's so many questions that get raised with that. So, I mean, I thought it'd be more likely they give the single player free and pay for the multiplayer. But let's say they didn't do it that way. They did it the other way around, and it's free multiplayer. There's going to be so many questions asked of it after the fact, which is one, if someone is buying Halo, are they buying it full price? Would the game be cheaper? Because people will see it as though, well, the multiplayer is free. Like, shouldn't I? Am I still paying the full amount for the game, for instance, just to have the single player?
Smart delivery.
They'll say, go on Games Pass and you'll be able to play it for $10 or whatever, if people subscribe. So that's another way to think of it. If you up the price of, if the game is expensive that way, but you say, listen, go Games Pass and it's $10 a month or whatever it is, that's for Ultimate, isn't it? So you,
With 15 a month, whatever, for Ultimate, yeah.
you just have to make sure you messaged it right. And then on top of that, you'd assume there's transactions within the multiplayer if it's free, because we know from reports from Ubisoft and 2K, the way they make so much money from those online games is through those transactions. So you'd have to just have so many customizable stuff like Destiny.
That's
same
Fortnite.
thing.
So like we keep joking about Fortnite still in beta, isn't it?
Yeah.
That game is built on its microtransactions. Anyone can jump in.
But it's also free everywhere. So like you said, they do have to
Yeah.
offset somewhere. And if it's a case of, you get different Spartan armor sets or skins for guns. I mean, Halo 5 already did that. Do you know what I mean? It's not something that they can't build into a model for that. So I just thought it'd be interesting just to touch on that, because it triggered my brain when you mentioned Halo, that I'd heard that this week, that it was.
I'd be alright with it, right? Like if my full price game got me like everything, and those that wanted to play for free would have to just work
Nickel
for
and
it
dime.
or pay for it. Yeah, like if I want to come in and support this game at full price, which I probably will, and give me everything. Like don't shortchange me. Don't be a dick. Like leave the people that are playing for free to pay for all that extra shit. Just give me everything.
But then a caveat there would probably be you get everything, but for the first season.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So then when they have
that's fine.
the next season stuff, you actually do have to earn it, or you get nickel and dime as well, because that's how you keep money coming into the business. Well, we coming up on an hour. Dan, do you want to touch on your documentary thing now, or do you want to hold it for next week? Your microphone's muted. You can nod for end the podcast, or shake your head for you want to talk about it.
All right, I'm just going to talk, and then you guys can talk. So this week, the Last Stand, the Michael Jordan documentary, which even if you are not into sports, I highly recommend you watch it. Jamie, you have made many documentaries in your time, and I reckon you would just love the shit that they're doing in this documentary. And the other thing, so that you had that on Sunday night or Monday night when I watched it, and then you guys started getting your PlayStations, and you started talking about all these games that you're going to play, and they're all games that I played, years and years ago, and it was just a whole week of like reminiscing about stuff.
Oh.
And so I started watching the Last of Us and the God of War and the Horizon for No Clip, all their documentaries about the games being made. And I was just watching them, and I was like, I love watching these things. I love especially the ones, the longer they stay with the game, the cooler it is to watch it from inception to release, or even after release. And I just wanted to know if you guys had watched many documentaries on ones and which your favorite, and if we have time, just games that you
What
would
we'd
like to see a documentary made for, or upcoming games you want to see a documentary.
I think if we had one each in terms of like one that we'd like to see, but I've watched a good few video game documentaries. Danny O'Dwyer is an absolute legend. Like, he's been doing all of this kind of stuff since way before NoClip, and I'm just pleased that the company is a success and they're still getting to make documentaries, because the detail that he goes to and the way that he presents the information he's a brilliant documentary filmmaker, along with the rest of his production team that are now part of NoClip. Of theirs, I think the one I probably enjoyed the most was about a game I don't really even play. I played a little bit a few years ago, Final Fantasy 14. The online MMO Final Fantasy, that was broken up into three parts.
Two parts.
Two like hour-long parts. They were too big. It was a big documentary, kind of taking you through this game failed. We need to rebuild it from the ground up and keep players engaged while we do it. Something that Destiny has experienced a number of times since it launched, so it kind of resonated with me on that level. But yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Like, the story behind it is one worth telling, and it was told expertly. And then to deviate away from Danny O'Dwyer's stuff, there was a Halo 2 documentary that came out with the anniversary edition about the making of the original Halo 2. That was great. That was really, really good. Again, like 50 minute documentary about Halo, kind of how it became to be what it was by Halo 2. And a lot of the people that worked on Halo 2 were interviewed for it. I think that was just on the Microsoft Store, and it came included with the Master Chief Collection. But very worth a watch. I'm sure you'll be able to find it for free somewhere. But yeah, you can watch it on Xbox if not. But they're probably two of the better ones that I've seen. As I said to you guys, my interest with the TV stuff is much more around the TV show Mythic Quest, which you both need to watch, as opposed to documentaries at the minute, because I think documentaries are in a great place in terms of video games. They've got someone like Danny O'Dwyer doing what he's doing, and as long as people keep giving him money, which I do every month, Patreon, we'll keep getting awesome documentaries.
Nice. Right. Well, look, I remember the days when you buy the collector's editions of games, and they'll come with a DVD of a making of, or behind the scenes special features and stuff, documenting the process of the game. And I miss that stuff, and you don't see a lot of it these days. Other games that I've been interested in were like Final Fantasy 15. They had like little vignettes of the voice work or voice actors, and not really too in depth. The one I would really love to see, now that I'm pretty much invested in this game, is Final Fantasy 7 Remake. I want to see, like, this game has been like a roller coaster, man. Like, two developers, like, it was being developed by CyberConnect 2 or whatever it was, and then halfway through that production they got pulled back in-house into Square Enix. And like the last 2.5 years or whatever, they've just been making the game. Like, people are like, oh, it's been made for the last 10 years. It's like, well, no, it hasn't. It's only really been made for like the last 2-3 years maybe. And it just took that long to get the ball rolling. And I'd love to see from the announcement trailer back on PS3 of like, here's a hint of something that we're thinking of doing, all the way up until however they end up finishing this game. Like, that story is just, I think it would be massive, because it's just one of those games where it's just Final Fantasy 7. Like, everybody knows it, everybody's aware of the story, and if you're into the game, you just know so much about it. But I'd love to see an in-depth documentary made on that game and this remake, and like what it means, to the industry and stuff. Like, the original game set the bar back then, and this game, to me, looks like it's doing it again. Like, the presentation of this game, it's just insane, and the combat, just based on what I've played tonight and watching stuff, it just looks insane. And everybody says it's fun and stuff, and I've just got a taste of it, and I'm already seeing it. I can't wait to play it. So this game alone, I'd watch like a 2.5 hour documentary on. I'm just fascinated by this game and its process. That would be my choice right now, a gun to the head. Otherwise, it'd be when Gears of War 6 finishes, whatever that ends up being. Give me like a documentarian revisit of the entire franchise and all the changes made, and all the sacrifices made, like Cliffy B and Rod Ferguson and whoever's going to take charge now. Like that's the other one I'd love to see. Like, it's fascinating to me.
Yeah. I think it'd be really interesting to see what happened with all the Sony's restructuring, with Sean Layden leaving and all that. It'd be really cool to get the stories from both sides with that stuff.
Ooh, meaty.
I think it'd be, with all the stuff we've sort of been rumored about this week, with Naughty Dog and the studio, it'd be really interesting to watch them release Last of Us Part 2 and what happens after that, and then what they do before their next game, because it'll be a new IP, so it'll be interesting to see what the studio changes during that time. But the one I actually would really like to see, and it probably won't happen now, but it'd be really cool to actually watch a documentary with Bungie and showing them with leading up to them separating from Activision and what it was like, and then what the challenges are becoming their own independent publishing arm, essentially, and in a lead up to, say, a Destiny 3, and what happens at that studio during that time. That's actually a really good one I'd like to see.
Yeah, I'd pay that.
100%. I think we will get something like that. They do little Vidocs almost every season now, just as kind of a look behind the curtain as to how things are coming to fruition, but they're only usually 5 or 6 minutes long. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we get something long form going into D3. Hopefully so. Well,
hell yeah.
Coming up on being the longest podcast we've done, which for one that was just like, let's be a bit more lighthearted and just talk about some news topic things this week, has kind of rolled on for a good while. So we're all going to sign off and go play Gears, and we'll see you next week. I am Jamie, Chunt is in the middle, Dan is on the left, and this is Let's Talk Games episode 7. See you next week.
Bye.